never quit, and be willing to pivot. Don't marry your vision for it, and be open and allow your business, which is essentially your baby, to grow the way it needs to.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur who's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Aireka Harvell. And Aireka is a Nashville native and went to school there. Didn't graduate till later on, and ended up getting a GED. Went to the Tennessee University, and then switched to Chamberlain for a business degree, or Cumberland. I think I said Chamberlain, but or Cumberland, and graduated or went to grad school and got an organizational leadership degree as well. Worked for Dell for a period of time, then went to AT&T. Afterwards, worked on American Express, which was associated, or did some work with AT&T. Son went to a water park, couldn't find much information on water parks, and decided to develop an app, or that was a genesis for that app. Found a team that helped her to do that, including some that were located in India. Built it, launched it, and that's a bit of where she's at today. So with that much as introduction, welcome on the podcast, Aireka.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Excited to have you on. So, well, with that, I gave kind of the 30-second condensed version of a much longer journey. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your journey got started growing up in Nashville?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm a Nashville native, born to a pastor and evangelist. I was a preacher's kid for all of my life, and I am the second child of 7 children. And my father passed away in 2006. He was unfortunately killed by a drunk driver, and so I now have an amazing stepfather and little stepbrother. I am also a single mother of 4 children as well, and that is significant because that's how I got on this journey.
And we'll get to that, but I don't want to jump too much past the front of your journey. So growing up in Nashville, and I know you mentioned before, but it may be for the audience. So you went to high school, didn't graduate, later got a GED and went to college. So how did that, what kind of transpired there?
Well, my story is really, really interesting. So I actually ran away from home at the age of 16. For some reason, I keep thinking 14 years old, but my sister's like, no, you were 16. So I ran away from home. I still went to school while I was there, ended up getting kicked out my senior year since I could not graduate, but I loved school. I was a cheerleader in school from 8th grade up, and participated in a lot of clubs. So it was really, it really hurt me to, not get to graduate with my classmates. But they did let me take the picture, and I'm in the yearbook with the formal outfit on and and all that. And then from there, I ended up getting married before I went to college. I ended up getting married, and I had my 3rd child before I even decided to go to college. I dealt with cervical cancer at the early beginning of my marriage. And I was told that I wasn't, I couldn't have kids. So I did, fertility treatments and all that, and ended up having 3 kids back to back. And so I decided to go to college while I was working at AT&T. Graduated there in 2015, had my 4th child a year before I graduated college, and then immediately went to MTSU for grad school.
And I say, okay, go through that, have, an unconventional path to get you to college. Now you're going to school and saying, okay, I'm going to go to get a degree, and then you even went on to get to grad school. And so and I think you said, or that we chatted a bit before, that the degree or for grad school was in organizational relationships or leadership. Sorry,
yes,
organizational leadership. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, and then I think undergraduate was with a business degree. And so you're coming out, you have business background, organizational leadership, and coming out of school. And so, where was the first stop after school on your journey?
Well, I attended college while I was working at AT&T. So before AT&T, I was working at Dell, Dell Computers and small business. In the small business department, selling computers to small business organizations. And I ended up leaving Dell. My father was killed by the drunk driver while I was there. And when I went back to work after that, I couldn't. It was just, too traumatic. It brought back a lot of memories of him coming to have lunch with me and things like that. So I left Dell, and I applied to AT&T. I was not offered the job at AT&T. And that's a funny story how I got on there. My brother-in-law actually applied, and he told me about the job. So I applied. And when he got his interview letter, like his acceptance letter, I expected to get mine. So I checked my email and there was nothing there. So I called the HR recruiter and I was like, hey, something's wrong. I said, my brother-in-law got his letter today, but I didn't. And I was like, I'm just calling to make sure, that it didn't get lost, or that it's not in spam. And she said, well, we were not going to hire you, but I am now. Just
Hey, it worked out, whether it was intentional or not. Hey, I assume I got the job. I'm already ready to get going. Well, yeah. Okay, I guess we convinced us we'll hire you. So that's great.
I knew that I had the skills. I knew that I had the experience from working in the small business department with Dell, and he didn't have the experience that I had. So I knew that if he got hired, that I should have gotten hired. And so I ended up staying with the company for 10 years, and he was there for a year. So the HR person wasn't making a good decision at that time. So I helped her out with that one. But yeah, so while I was in college, I was still working for AT&T, and actually AT&T paid for us to go to college. It was a great company to work for. While I was there, I did deal with some, company politics, a lot of company politics and organizational bullying, which is what I actually did my thesis on. Just simply talking about the leadership and how bullying comes into play when there's intimidation, when the employer is intimidated by employees, and how they will bully those employees or create a hostile work environment and fear of them, being replaced or looking like they don't know what they're doing. And so that director, several conversations, I decided to approach that situation very differently. So I went to her, explained to her what my aspirations were for the company to, to move up and grow with AT&T. I had a goal of becoming VP of and the loyalty, one of the VPs of loyalty and retention org. And she looked at me and she told me, you would never be a leader. And I did get upset, but not at her. I started looking at myself and asking myself, like, what would make her say that? And so that's when I decided, after I graduated undergrad, I decided to go right back into graduate school and get my degree in organizational leadership, because at that time I was thinking she was saying because I didn't have, this pedigree behind me or the knowledge that was focused on specifically organizational leadership, that's why she was saying that. And so while I was in school, she would still, do little things and tell me that nobody wanted me there, and that I was combative, like she was, saying certain things. And I've come to find out she was doing that to multiple people, and multiple people had reported her to um, HR. And the company ended up replacing her with a man named Jeremy Snyder, who I absolutely love. And I tell him all the time, if it had not been for you, then my next step in life would have been very different. So Jeremy came within a week of him being there. I asked to meet with him to share what my aspirations and goals were for the company. And he gave me the opportunity and promoted me after that meeting.
Nice. Okay. And it is always hard to decipher sometimes when people are giving you feedback. Sometimes they just give you terrible feedback. Sometimes it's not genuine. And sometimes they're really just trying to help out and give what they think is a direction. And sometimes deciphering that and then understanding their motivations, what they're saying, what they're trying to convey, and what the reasoning behind it is not always straightforward. But nonetheless, so you had change in leadership as the people you're working for, you're saying, okay, now this is a better situation. I can continue to grow here, and I can continue to flourish. Now, at one point, I think that you got involved, I think it was around 2017, if I remember in our conversation, with some of the American Express loyalty programs. I think that was with AT&T or in
Yes.
partnership. Is that right?
Yes, AT&T was a part of the American Express Plenty Loyalty Program, which there were 8 companies in this coalition. And so after I got promoted, Jeremy also gave me the opportunity to participate in AT&T's management development program, where I got to go to Texas, the headquarters in Texas, and participate in workshops there and meet with the leadership team there. And after that, I was tapped to work on the American Express Plenty partnership. And our job there was to increase the number of AT&T customers who signed up for the Plenty loyalty program. And we actually grew that to 50 million subscribers.
No, and I think that's, loyalty programs certainly have a lot of benefit for the company, and they can be a great source of revenue. So now as you're saying, okay, doing the loyalty programs with AT&T, with American Express, getting that up and going, and then I think along that path, or some point in the more recent future, as you're continuing to do that job, your son was looking for a water park or wanting to, and you're trying to find some information from it or for it, and that's kind of the genesis of the startup you're working on now. But how did that, or maybe fill us in a bit, how did that get going, and how did that come about?
So this is actually while I was in graduate school. I was sitting in my room working on a paper, and he comes running in the room crying and said, "Mom, did you know there was a new water park here?" And I said, "No, I didn't know about it." I said, "How did you find out about it?" And he said, "My friends, and they're teasing me on Snapchat because today's the last day and it's too late to go." And so I started asking my friends, because I was thinking, like, how in the world did a water park open here all summer and I hear anything about it? And so I started calling my family and friends and asking if they had heard of it, and only one person did. And I asked her, I was like, "Why didn't you post anything about that on Facebook, especially since it was $3 a day?" And she said, we were just having fun. I wasn't thinking about it. And I was like, "Well, that's where we get all of our information locally." And so in conversation with my son a couple of days later, I said, "Someone needs to build an app that rewards locals for sharing what they know, and call it Know That." And he said, "Why don't you do it, Mom?" And at that time, I didn't know of a lot of women or Black people in tech. And so I thought to myself, okay, why not me? And so I started working on it. And I tried to build it myself on my MacBook by downloading Xcode. Had no idea what I was doing. So I researched and found developers on Upwork. I interviewed several companies, and ended up working with one. We worked for 6 months through Skype. And then the week that we were set to launch, we were invited out by the development company to visit India and talk about bringing them on as a technology partner for the company. So we flew out to India, spent a week with them, finished up some last minute features, and launched from India.
Awesome. Well, no, that's definitely a fun journey. Now, how long has it been or how long did it take to develop? How long has it been out? Is it launched? How long has it been launched? Or kind of give everybody a bit of an idea as to where it's at today and how long it took to get here.
So my journey has been long. Even the journey from launching in 2017, July of 2017 to now, has been still pretty long, and we've had some hurdles to jump over. But when we launched in 2017, we initially launched with the idea of video reviews. So think TikTok for small business reviews. And we did very well with that. We gained a lot of traction with that. We had over 1,400 businesses on the platform. When COVID happened, a lot of the businesses had to permanently shut down or temporarily shut down. And what we noticed is that the businesses didn't really have a way to stay connected with their existing customers. And that was more so what they were worried about at that time, was getting their existing customers to continue to patronize them or come back once the shutdowns were complete. And so in talking to them, we realized that their biggest issue was generating repeat revenue. So, and they said that, the video reviews is pretty cool, but it's not really solving a problem for us. And I think it was because, we were really early. In 2017, TikTok was not out, and everybody was Facebook, like writing what their thoughts were instead of being on video. And so we were just a little bit too early for that. And so we decided to pivot. When COVID happened, we were in an accelerator, the Beta Boom Women's Venture Academy. And so we pivoted while we were in that accelerator, and decided to remove the video reviews and build them back in later. And so we are now helping the businesses target their existing customers, like target new and existing customers in their local or their service area to get them to come back. And we're doing that with geo-targeting, mobile marketing, and customizable time-sensitive deals. So think Snapchat for coupons.
And maybe you didn't share it, so I'll give you a chance now. What is the name of the app? Where can people find it? Kind of, they're interested in it.
It's Know Dat. So NODAT. Like, hey, did you know that your customers need to know that?
Awesome. Well, definitely, it sounds like a fun journey, and definitely it sounds like a great resource for people. So. Well, now as we kind of caught up to the present day of where your journey's at and what's going on, it's a great time to transition to the two questions I always ask at the end of each episode. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? And what did you learn from it?
The worst business decision. Gosh, there's been so many. I would honestly, man.
Or one of the worst,
think.
even if it's not the worst, it's too hard to pinpoint. What's one of the mistakes?
One of the mistakes that we made. I mean, honestly, I would say the worst was not considering the resources or that we needed before we launched and doing a soft launch. One of the things that I teach entrepreneurs now that I mentor is to work in stealth mode while you're in beta with customers before you make this huge announcement that you're about to, launch a new app. Because when we originally launched, and I would say this is the biggest mistake, we tried to launch across 15 states. And so we had to pull back and focus just on Nashville. And a lot of that is because, again, this was me jumping into it with no prior tech experience. So I would say that is the biggest mistake. It's not going, region by region.
No, and I think that, it is one of those, I think in a general sense, sometimes it's hard. One, if you're getting into areas of an industry or technology or that, or areas of knowledge that, you haven't ever had as much exposure to. And two, you're also, as you're getting into a startup, you get excited, you want to get it out there, you want to, do things, and to figure out the timing, when to launch things, how long it's going to take, what the budgets are, is always something that, you probably difficult to estimate, and most of the time you're wrong, and you always think you got it figured out. And so I definitely understand that the mistake to made, but also a good opportunity to learn there.
Yes, yeah.
Second question I always ask is, now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
To never quit, and be willing to pivot. Don't marry your vision for it, and be open and allow your business, which is essentially your baby, to grow the way it needs to.
Awesome. Well, I definitely think that's a great piece of advice and a great takeaway. So, well, as we wrap up the episode, and we touched on it a bit with what the name of your app is, but if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, or find out more?
You can definitely email me at Aireka, which is AIREKA @knowthatplace.com. You can follow us on all of our social at Know That Place. You can also find me on social at Aireka Harvell. And then I just want to say, we are about to launch a equity crowdfunding campaign on WeFunder. And we're pitching live at the WeFunder event April 7th here in Nashville.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage everybody to check it out, support a great business, and make, if nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast, Aireka. Now for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to tell and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, feel free to go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review, because we want to make sure that everyone finds out about all these awesome episodes. And last but not least, if you ever need help with your patents, your trademarks, or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Aireka, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.